meeting we'll be holding today. When we get to that, we'll just do a quick one for you. But today, we're looking at the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. As you know, the Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, he resumed office and has been, quote-unquote, shooting from the hips ever since. And so, well, that's because, well, it is well known that the master plan for Abuja has its issues. I understand that the way the city is, it's not quite the way of the master plan as it has recommended. And Wike is determined to return us to a semblance. In fact, I don't even think he's talking about a semblance, to return us to normality. Of course, he's been breathing fire. Whoever has, built where they shouldn't be building, I'm sorry, they're going to be reversing matters. Okay, we'll talk about that. It's not as if it's the only thing necessary to be done in the Federal Capital Territory, but that sort of caught the headlines. We'll look at that because it's important. And let me introduce my guests. In our Abuja studio, we have Malam Ali M. Ali. He's the former Deputy President, Nigerian Guild of Editors. He's also the former Deputy Director of Media and Publicity of the APC Presidential Campaign Council. I would say now defunct. Good morning to you, Malam Ali.
Good morning, Folari. It's good to be on your show. Good morning, Nigerians.
Thank you very much. And in our Lagos studio, architect Akinola George, a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Architects and immediate past president of the Building Collapse Prevention Guild. It's become so frequent that we actually now have a guild. On the one hand, we're talking about the guild of, of editors, and now we also have the guild for building collapse prevention. Thank you very much, architect, for coming on.
Thank you, Mr. Folari.
Yori will do. Thank you very much.
Yori, thank you, Yori. It's good to be here again.
Indeed.
And as always, it's good to contribute your own little quota to national development.
Indeed.
So I'm proud to be here.
Oh, thank you very much. In fact, let's kick it off right from here, starting with you, the professional, the architect. The plan, Abuja as a brand new city, Federal Capital Territory, was designed in a particular way. There were drawings, there were designs, and our people have done what they want once they got there. I remember that this was an issue that the former governor of Kaduna State, Malam El Rufai, in his time, he was very, very particular about the Abuja master plan. There were infringements all over the place, but then that's been some moons ago. And now we have a different minister of the federal capital who thinks that it's very, very important. Now, the question I want to put to you to start off with is that since he's spoken, and since we've seen some pictures, some videos of the ministry actually having swung into operation, we've seen some, structures begin to come down and that kind of a thing. There have been, shall I say, outcries from some. Oh, no, that's not, is this what they sent you there to go and do, to go and cause more problems for our people? And I suppose they're not looking at it from the point of view of, what are you talking about? You've done wrong, and we're about to set it right. And now you begin to talk about punishing people. Give me your, first of all, the Abuja master plan. That document, what are the dangers of infringing it? And what do you think about the effort of Minister Wike to return things to the way they should be?
Thank you so much, Jerry. Well, let me start from the point of view of what a master plan is.
Sure.
It's a blueprint. It's a physical planning document, containing the spatial and structural layout about how a design or an idea should go. Mm-hmm. So it's a controlling document. And by that much, because it's controlling, it must have certain basic modules that must be adhered to and implemented. These certain modules must be adhered to and implemented. The first module is a scheme design, a master design,
okay,
that shows how the implementation should go. Mm-hmm. Second is not only restricted to design. You talk about population. How do you move the population? For example, the people that were the original owners of Abuja, you wanted to resettle them. Since 1976, you have not succeeded in resettling them. So that one will create its own dynamics.
Indeed. And you know what? Can I just interrupt you very briefly? We've got to go over to Abuja now, where the first meeting that the new ministers, the first Federal Executive Council meeting that they'll be attending, I think is going to be today. So we want to cross over to our Femi Akode. Indeed, I believe that presidential spokesman Ajuri Angelale is also on the other end. Abuja, good morning. Okay, it's you, Femi.
Yeah, good morning, Yori. Well, Ajuri Ngelale, the special advisor to the President of Media and Publicity, is also joining me for this interview. You know, it's the inaugural Federal Executive Council meeting of President Bola Tinubu's administration, and that clearly indicates that the ball of governance has been set rolling at full speed. But well, let's hear from Ajuri. Ajuri, the first Federal Executive Council meeting, expectations are high. What I know Mr. President is going to give his command to these ministers, his charge to them to go on and execute his government policies. But what more should Nigerians expect?
What Nigerians can expect from His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the fulfillment of the Renewed Hope mandate. What they can expect from His Excellency Mr. President is that given the fact that the President is a man with an extensive private sector background, this is someone who is driven by results. He's not driven by rhetoric. He's not driven by how well you know him. He's driven by how well you perform with the mandate he has given to you. This is someone who will not hesitate to ensure that there are clear benchmarks based on time-based frameworks that would allow each minister to know whether or not they are performing up to the expectations that he has set out for them. The other point I think is important to note is that as we commence this first inaugural Federal Executive Council meeting under this administration, His Excellency Mr. President is going to address the ministers this morning. And I think what can be expected is that the rules of the road will be clearly laid down. Anyone who fails to perform up to expectation, their job will not be safe. Anyone who performs up to expectation can expect to be empowered to do more. This is a president who is going to ensure that the administration succeeds on the basis of the work that is going to go into the fulfillment of the Renewed Hope mandate by each of the members of the Federal Executive Council that commence work from today.
We have seen the President also unbundle certain ministries to enhance performance and efficiency. But we're also hearing in some quarters that, there seems to be some kind of confusion in some ministries about who exactly do they report to. How soon will all of these rough edges be tidied up?
No, there's really no. I was a bit taken aback by some of the reports along the line that there's some incoherence in terms of the reporting lines in some ministries. Many of these institutions have been established for decades now. Yes, you may have the reassignment of some directors or some permanent secretaries to accommodate the new level of enhanced specialization that Mr. President has brought into the new federal ministries that have been created. But this is not going to be an encumbrance to effective governance. What we should expect, what Nigerians can expect, is that wherever there are new ministries being created, that there will be effective working synergy amongst the bureaucracy in support of those new ministers and in support and in fulfillment of their new ministerial mandate. So I don't believe that that is something that will be an issue at all. And if issues arise, the President is somebody who is on the ball, somebody who is very, very well known for his level of detail orientation. He doesn't take anything for granted. He will be very sure that the Secretary to the Government of the Federation as well as the Head of Service are able to effectively coordinate themselves to ensure that the bureaucracy is, rather than being an encumbrance to the work and progress of the political appointees present here today, that they will actually be a boost and a point of compelling them forward to succeed in fulfilling their mandates under the leadership of His Excellency, Mr. President.
Okay, Mr. President's speech to the ministers will be televised live on TVC News and other national TV stations. But can we preempt the President? What are some things we expect to hear him say in his speech?
Let me not go too far, but let me say that His Excellency, Mr. President, is a man of passion, as we saw yesterday at the NBA conference. He's a man of no excuses. He has been consistent that this is not the time for lamentation or looking back or blaming anybody. This is the time to buckle up, take the hard decisions, and implement those decisions to the letter. That is what I think we can expect from Mr. President to tell his ministers today, that no excuses. You are here to deliver results. I expect to see the results, failing which there will be consequences.
All right, thank you so much, Ajuri. It's a busy day for you, so I'll let you just go about your day.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, there you have it from the special advisor to President Bola Tinubu on media and publicity, telling us what to expect and what the charge will be to these ministers as they settle.
Well, thank you very much, Femi Akonde. And as you said, TVC News will be covering it live, as much of it that is allowed to be covered live. If it's all of it, we'll be there for our viewers. Okay, so, but back to studio, we're looking at the kicking off of his ministry's activities by Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, who will be in that meeting. And our guest, just to remind you, in our Abuja studio, Malam Ali M. Ali, and here in our Lagos studio, architect Akinola George. And he had just finished telling us before we had to take that break and go back there that the document that is styled the Abuja Master Plan, it's a document that has many ramifications. Please, sir.
Right. I said the master plan, is a planning document that is used to structure spatial layout and development in design, in architecture, in physical planning, in engineering. It's different from master plan in other areas. Mm-hmm. But this is specific to architectural and planning execution.
Exactly.
In Abuja, the people that were the original owners of Abuja, as I said earlier, you can't restrict it to only designs and geometrical analysis. The people there, they matter. The people that were removed from their location to another location in the plan never moved. Since June 1976, when the plan was made, when the decree was made by Murtala Mohammed, the former head of state. That is a failure.
Okay.
So if
the original inhabitants of the area now called the Federal Capital Territory did not move, I can see how that would create a problem. That's number one. Okay. Okay. Let me, in order to hear from our other guests, let me take this to Malam Ali M. Ali, the former deputy president of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. So this is information that you probably also already had, that the original inhabitants of the place never moved, and I can see how that would have a domino effect if no matter what it is that, is contained in the plan, they just knew that this is where we've always been, and so they sat put, and can you imagine what would have happened by now? I suppose we were just this to happen if we could not enforce the master plan as it was. What would be your comments on that?
Well, the natives of Abuja, they've not been properly resettled elsewhere. And that's why you still find settlements, even in the heart of the central business district. You still have remnants of the natives, the original, if you like, the aborigines of Abuja. They're still scattered across some of the districts. They're still very visible. They've not been properly resettled, hindering perhaps in the process the development of the Federal Capital Territory. You still find settlements within the central business district that are inhabited by the aborigines, if you like. Let me use that expression, the original inhabitants. And this tells you that over the years, the government has not really engaged them enough or persuaded them with alternative places to settle and continue their existence. And the natives, some of them are still far behind in, if you like, the necessary skills to survive in a modern, sophisticated city where you have all citizens of the country domiciled there. You know, the federal capital or the political capital of any nation is a melting pot of salt, just like Lagos was, still is a melting pot, like most mega cities. Lagos is one example of a mega city. Up north, we have Kano, is another mega city, a melting pot. In Abuja, you expect that with the dawn of the federal capital, I mean, as the new administrative capital of the nation, some of these natives will be resettled properly somewhere where they'll also be beneficiaries of the status of a federal capital. But unfortunately, they're still having a tough time. If you go into certain places in the central business district, you still find remnants of this aborigines, settlers, the owners, the Gwaris, the owners of Abuja, if you like, if I must say, use that word. So the way out is, first, like I think the architect there, the other guys, look, what is the master plan? What is the master plan? Is it the master plan? What about the human component to it? What has been done to that human component? And I think this is the, if you like, the billion naira question that perhaps Wike will have to confront and deal with, which has proved to be a Herculean task by successful past FCT ministers. Yeah. So this is one major task, resettling the Aborigines, properly integrate them, and then also expose them to whatever benefit there are befitting, the federal capital territory, the administrative capital of the country.
Indeed. All right, then, thank you. You see, coming back to you, Architect George, you said it the other time that it's clearly a failure of government. Yeah. And so those people were left to fend for themselves. They had never known any other place, and so they kept on doing their own thing. Really, I can appreciate you when you say it was a failure, because if that was the plan, then we had all the time since 76.
Nearly 50 years.
Yes, to have begun to settle it. But nothing was done. Then we looked away from it. Unfortunately, we must have felt that if we look away from it, maybe it will disappear. Of course, it's not going to disappear. And so those people are sort of claiming it, and they don't really have any idea of what the plan says or how it is supposed to work. I hear authorities in the Federal Capital Territory complaining about all sorts of street trading that is not supposed to be the place in a modern city like that. But they don't know any other way. What, in your experience, because there must be other areas of the world where perhaps they've had a situation like this. It's late now, but Wike is saying that he's ready to go now. You remember, some people felt it was a bit scary when he was indicating that it doesn't matter how well connected you are. If you are infringing any of the aspects of the master plan, sorry, that infringement will be removed. What are the options here?
Well, let me, as much as I respect the person of Nyesom Wike, and I appreciate all the good works I have done in Rivers State, you see, you have to make haste slowly. Because if you rush into it, you are going to, if you make a hasty jump, you make a bad landing. He has to first of all understand that the master plan is not only on structures. Because what we have there in Abuja are structures that people can see. But the master plan starts from implementing all those things that were recommended. Mm-hmm. Like I talked about the population movement. If you don't move the population, where do you want them to go? So they will be infringing on the master plan that they don't know anything about. They will be infringing on, doing whatever they think is their right to do because they were not moved. And that's why I said it's a failure of government. because government did not compensate them, government did not move them to an alternative destination that they had already prepared, government did not make it comfortable and enjoyable for them to live. So a lot of things need to be done. That's number one in terms of Wike, the new minister. Secondly, structures. Structures grow linearly horizontally. Structures grow linearly vertically. Now, when structures grow linearly horizontally, then you start having places like in the land use, green areas, developmental areas, factories, and so on and so forth. When one use is compromised for whatever reason, then you are going to have a compromise of the linear development of the master plan. That one can be claimed. I think that's what the minister is focusing on, that linear horizontal development. It's not the only aspect of the master plan. Linear vertical development. How many floors can you go in certain areas? So, for example, in certain areas, you are expected to go 5 floors, 10 floors. In some way, I know the limit is 12 floors in Abuja.
Okay.
Now, you cannot go more than 12 floors, but somebody now designs 14 floors. And it's standing. What was the government looking at? What were the ministries and the parastatals looking at when that structure was going beyond the plan approved? So all these ones are important. Number 3, the structural transformation of Abuja. There are certain areas where pipes go through. Sewage pipes, electricity pipes, and people just go put structures there. They put buildings on those areas, thereby compromising the functionality of those systems.
And probably without any approval, so to build. They put them there. Nobody would have approved it unless everybody was just doing what they wanted.
To happen.
But could they, because this is the point that the minister must have been making, that if you built without approval, then you built on your own lonesome.
Okay, sir. Please, let me be very clear here. I was a president of the Building Collapse Prevention Guild, which is an association of architects, engineers, planners, and all of us, surveyors, all the rest. 7 built environment professionals. We are underutilized. Wike cannot do it alone without involving the professionals. The professionals will do a priori and posteriori. They will do before, they will work before, and they will work after. What do I mean? When any building is coming up, somebody is trying to build somewhere, there are people who are living in those areas who are professionals in the 7 Built Environment Professional Institute. And these people will see and notice such infringements. It is those infringements that will be reported even before the building comes up.
Exactly.
And after, when that building has been, built up to a stage, is in its shell form, you can still report that this building is sick or this building is not according to the master plan.
And clearly that was not done.
Government doesn't have the capacity. That is the sad fact.
Okay, I've got to go on a break now, and forgive me, but when we come back, I'll come over to you, Malam Ali M. Ali, as soon as we come back from break, so that we can get your input on this aspect of the question that we're talking about here. Stay with us, please.
Dark marks, I've tried everything. Nivea Lumina 630 works from day 1 with visible results in just 2 weeks and 71% dark marks reduction in 12. Join the 1 million women already using Lumina 630 from Nivea.
Information is power, information is security, information is knowledge. On Labor Lens, we believe that working people around the world have real questions of their own. They want to know how the world of work operates, what it means to the employer of labor, how policies affect workers in the workplace. On Labor Lens, I ensure we engage effectively the organized labor, organized private sector, and government to get out of them information workers are in need of. I am Sharon Ijason, asking questions that make you get sense of the workplace.
Okay, welcome back. In our Lagos studio here, we have architect Akinola George, and in our Abuja studio, we have Malam Ali M. Ali, Guild of Editors and former Deputy Director of Media and Publicity of the APC Presidential Campaign Council. Now, Malam Ali, you've heard, what our expert in studio, our professional architect, is saying. I imagine that Wike can't just be speaking. Minister Wike, the Honorable Minister Wike, can't just be speaking, as it were, just anyhow he likes. Because we've learned, we've just heard now that there's so many different aspects to following the master plan. And for some reason, the right thing was not done all that time ago. How easy do you think it is going to be now that people are there? Points have been, one of the points that you would have heard the architect make, I'm sure, is that if, for instance, the maximum height you can have in an Abuja location site is, 12 floors, and then there's one there that is 14 or 15 floors, for whatever reason. Why people do that kind of a thing, whether they didn't know, whether they did know, but they thought they were big enough to be able to pull it off. When we have those kind of things, and the building is already standing, it looks like there's going to be much anguish if Wike goes ahead and does what he did say. He's going to, apply the law and return Abuja to the way it should be. What's the way out of this? Because as we speak, I'm not too sure, but work has actually started. We have begun to see some pictures. Work has actually started. So Wike is in a situation of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't.
Well, let me just state right away upfront that Wike has the reputation and he has the disposition to walk his talk of pulling down any structure illegally erected. So he has the disposition, he has the will to do what he says he will do. He will walk his talk. In other words, if you violate the master plan or the building plan, or you have 2 extra floors ahead, above the approved number of floors, I'm absolutely positive Wike will pull down the structure. Having said that, I think Wike, in a way, also being a politician, he may end up finding himself in a catch-22 situation. Catch-22 situation in that he may, as an individual, have the capacity to do that. But you soon realize that Abuja, the FCT, is not his state, is not River State. There are so many interests at play. And because he's a politician, unlike El-Rufai at the time he was FCT minister, and he literally became a one-man demolition squad. He, first of all, unlike Wike, El-Rufai had the training and he had the will, and he was unencumbered by political consideration. El-Rufai, like we all know, is a quantity surveyor. At the time he became FCT minister, he had not betrayed any inclination to towards politics, partisan politics. So he was not burdened by political considerations. There were structures El-Rufai pulled down, which ordinarily, if it were now, El-Rufai of today, probably he would not have done that. And Wike, unfortunately, or unfortunately for him, he'll be restrained by certain political considerations, being a politician, and still relatively young, who still nurses presidential ambition. So there will come a situation where you weigh in the political cost of bringing down certain violations, which are already standing. But again, another encumbrance for Wike is the training. He trained as a lawyer. He may be aware of the legal implications that may give him the will to do what is right, mindful of the legal processes involved. But again, because he lacks the training as a quantity surveyor, perhaps, or as an architect, that may be another impediment. But all said and done, I see Wike actually walking some of his talk, not all of it, where violations occur. And yes, it's important to consider some of the important variables in building a federal capital, a modern federal capital. Like the architect rightly pointed out, we find people erecting structures in sewage lines, in electricity lines, and which is a clear violation. Who gave them the approval? But we also know that in the quality control department of the FCT and in certain engineering department, they are compromised. Some of the officials were compromised who may give approval. This is the biggest tax before even Wike now, dealing with the bureaucracy, dealing with people who would ordinarily give approval for others to build on illegal, on places that are clearly illegal, or going beyond the recommended building plan, like going 1, 2 extra floors when there is a ceiling to the floors allowed to be constructed. So it's quite a Herculean tax for Wike, unlike El-Rufai, who superintended over the affairs of FCT 20 years ago. In 20 years, so many things, like they say, a lot of water has passed under the bridge. Some people recall with nostalgia the days of El-Rufai as FCT minister. And what happened in between? Between the time he left office in 2007, for nearly 17 years, people miss the action days of El-Rufai. So these are some of the things that may weigh down or give Wike a boost in...
Okay, I beg your pardon. Let me take a caller. Daniel. Okay, sir. Daniel has called in from Port Harcourt. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Thank you for calling in. Thank you very much for calling in. Go right ahead, please.
Yes, I think the number one thing that we should consider, whether one has a will or not, is that does the minister have the backing of the president? And I think he has the 100% backing of the president. Remember yesterday when the president called him the landlord of Abuja, that even if I ask you for land, don't give to me, but deliver this to me. It shows you a synergy between the president and the minister. That is one. Two, I think we need to begin to look at what are the immediates. Settling or no settling, these are long time planning. It will come. But we need to understand and ask ourselves these questions critically. Is that in recent times, are you proud of Abuja as the capital city of Nigeria? In recent times, a thing as common as a street light, things as common as traffic lights are not working in Abuja. And that is the capital of Nigeria. And so I think that for Wike, there are things of the immediate, there are the medium, and there are the long time. And I think the immediate are some of the things you see him going around to do. I tell you, I live in Port Harcourt. Wike is somebody that he tells you this and is working towards it. Though Wike is also somebody, I think the world didn't know, that he's someone that listens. He listens very well. Leave all these things that you see around him. He listens, he's someone that listens very well. And I think for me, he will do well in Abuja. Because I went to Abuja recently, and what I saw in Abuja is not like, it's just like any other place. It should not be. Okay. And so for me, I think that he will do well in Abuja.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you very much for calling in. You know, Architect George, the problem that Malam Ali, well, not problem, but the perspective he took was that, look, now there are going to be political considerations. Now that is worrying to me, as informed as the position of Malam Ali is, because it's pragmatic, it's real. But look, if there are rules, if there's go beyond the rules, there are actual plans reduced to blueprints, and people are walking all over those plans, because of political considerations now, it might be difficult to do. You know, there are administrations, you know, just taking it outside of the shores of our own country, who would say that the objective here is to return back to, the decent, the best global practices situation that we had before. For whatever reason, we'll be sorting all of that out. But now we have to go back to how it was before. All sorts of civil servants began to give illegal approvals. Because if a place is a green area, you can't approve for somebody to build a business or a residential house there, but that might have been done. I don't know, but I did hear Wike say that if you've built on a green area, it's coming down. And it begins to indicate, how quote-unquote bloody-minded is going to be when he went to further illustrate in a peculiarly Nigerian way, be you an ambassador, be you a minister, if you have built where you're not supposed to be built, it's coming down. So how difficult, and maybe I should let a viewer who has called in now, Mr. George, maybe I should let him take a stab at the question of how difficult, if the thing is the law, if it is the rule, what does he think? Let me hear from you, Mr. George. If people have infringed the law, but it is now cumbersome to return it back to the way it should be, what do you think?
Okay, Yori, let me first say good morning to you and to your guests.
Thank you. Good morning.
It really baffles me, Uncle Yori. What do we really want in this country? This question has become paramount. Whenever we see somebody come up and say, let's do things differently, let's restore sanity, they start condemning him. This is not Rivers. This is not this. Is Rivers State not part of Nigeria? This man says, I want to restore Abuja to its original plan. And the first thing you hear from the same people who are complaining that things are not working is, no, it cannot work. Are we so used to a situation of things not working to the extent that we don't even want it to work again? Let's give this man a chance. We have seen what he did in Rivers. Rivers State, the people in Abuja, are they so special? Are they different from the people living in Rivers State? I don't understand what our people sometimes, Uncle Yori. Look at the history. Most of the parties in power from 1999 have hardly won the vote in Abuja. And one of the reasons is that the Abuja people feel that they are not getting good governance from leaders, even though they are in the capital. The satellite towns have not received the type of development expected in the plan. You invest a lot of money on train. The train is not working. You see cars parked anyhow. Traffic lights are not working in a federal capital. This man came to power. Within 48 hours, the lights that were not working suddenly started working. Are we advanced to good things? I don't understand, though.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. George. Good morning. Thank you. I think I was going to ask you the question of what do we now do? Because the law is the law. The plan is there. There might be people who are listening to us who are not in Nigeria who will be saying that, if a thing is illegal, you pull it down. These sentiments, Malam Ali said, Malam Ali said that, well, there are political considerations now. Give me your thoughts on that.
There had always been political considerations. What is politics? Politics is the governing of man. So, since the days of El-Rufai, long before the days of Uru, there had always been political considerations. That's why it's government. The greatest offender in all this matter is government. Mm-hmm. The greatest people who have faulted the master plan is government. Government is either not doing its job or not doing it enough, or choosing to do other things, or deciding to change the master plan to achieve a particular purpose.
That's the problem.
Probably for overall public good, but they have changed it. And in changing it, there has to be a process that will make it an agreeable thing to everybody. Right. So government itself is guilty. How does government punish itself? Because we don't want to punish people for doing something. The government too must be sanctioned in some ways. Do you understand?
I do.
If I put my building up, I got my approval, then 10, 15 years down the line, you're telling me that I have already infringed the master plan.
Yes.
Then I must sue you as government.
Okay. I beg your pardon. Sandra in Abuja has called in. Good morning, Sandra.
Morning, Uncle Yori. Well done for your good work.
Good morning, ma'am. Thank you.
I want to briefly talk about your architect in the studio.
Sure.
Maybe he has not lived in Abuja, and I want to take it up from where El-Rufai stopped. Yes, he wasn't a politician, I agreed, but there's a way to walk. Abuja people that is defending that they have not settled, who told you they have not settled them? They settled them. You have New Abuja, New Use, New Gariki. They settled them. He should find out before he goes to the public to bring down what Mike wants to do. All the places El-Rufai demolished legally, that is breaking flood and other things, people have built 100% more than what he demolished. We know ourselves in Nigeria. We should not be because we think they are poor. That's why they are doing that today, or because of this. They have settled them. Even the Gariki, they have not settled. They settled them. In our presence, we have been Abuja for years. So let him find out. Let him not say they didn't know what they're supposed to do. They do.
All right. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Sandra. Let me return to Malam Ali. This whole problem of you brought it up, but you didn't create it. It's there, but you did highlight the fact that there are now political considerations. Malam Ali, a thing that was done in a particular way, and now because of these political considerations, people have adjusted that plan, whether they did so knowingly, whether they did so with government's approval or not. Now there's a new government who is saying that, sorry, we are going back to that original master plan. Maybe it was, due diligence, and you've just heard Sandra calling and say that these people were settled, but I think she didn't say so, but we do like to do precisely how we feel in this country. I'm a bit concerned about, what you shared, that to do it now, to do the correct thing now, political considerations might actually be obstructing it. How can we live with that?
Sometimes you have to look at the context. The context, what is legal and what is political. Sometimes which one takes precedence. I would say the law. If you respect the law, you observe what is legal, you do the right thing. But like the architect pointed out, sometimes the biggest culprit here is actually the government. It's the government that distorts its own master plan by giving approval, whether at the very top, to places, for people to erect structure, or even the government violating some of its own rules. For example, we all know how Abuja was supposed to have evolved. About, I think, 5 phases or thereabout. And each of the phases, so many districts, as many as 50 districts in one particular division, if I remember very well. Now, but you see the distortion beginning from the government. Some of the places, some of the massive structures actually, for example, the National Stadium was not supposed to be where it is. Who distorted it? It's the government. And then the individuals with connections follow suit. Green areas were converted to either residential or commercial places. So, political consideration, because government is involved, superseded the legal provisions there. So, okay. What do we do? What do we do differently going forward?
Well, it remains
for us. You can't.
It remains to be seen, because, as you know, government can be taken to court, and if the court doesn't do anything but rely on the law, so should the court now pronounce the law, we would be in the clear. We don't have the time, Malam. But if government is taken to court and court pronounces that the law shall be sustained, well, might that satisfy everybody? At least I don't know that the courts, consider political factors, or do they?
I don't think so, because, they say one man's meat is another man's poison. So the thing, it's the best thing, like we say in the newsroom, if you don't want it reported tomorrow, don't do it today. Well, times have changed now. If you don't want it reported in the next 1 hour, don't do it now, because times have changed. So the best thing is to, going forward, we can't go with the distortion of the past, but certainly we can first check it, and I think Wike has what it takes to do that, political consideration or not, and then move forward. But it's important also that some of the noted distortions can be salvaged so that we guard against, what we've been seeing in Abuja of late, sudden building collapse.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. Well, Malam Ali, I'm afraid we've run out of time. I mean, it's just like we started 5 minutes ago. But I want to thank you, Malam Ali M. Ali, former Deputy President, Nigerian Guild of Editors. I'm sure maybe.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. And, now back in studio, well, this is the situation we have. There's the law, there's also politics, and there's also human beings, So the structures are up, as you said. It looks like we've not heard the last of this matter yet, but the point has been made that, I think it was Malam Ali who made the point that I am sure he has the backing of the president.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was him or if it was someone who called him. But
you mentioned something.
Yes, sir.
Clearly. You said it's about people.
It is.
Fine. So the president will not go against the people for him to be a successful, the president, for him to be a successful president.
The president also can't go beyond the law.
Exactly. So what do we do? A master plan can grow.
Okay.
So a master plan is not a static document. A master plan can grow.
So when somebody breaks a master plan, then what we do is that we grow it to accommodate that.
No, not exactly. The government, headed by Wike's ministry,
yes,
should assemble the professionals
within
the ministry and without, and let them now analyze. You don't just rush into a problem and let them analyze what has been infringed upon and what they can do to rectify. Those that can be accommodated should be accommodated if it fits into the original master plan in a way that it does not compromise its principles.
Okay.
So if you now have those ones that can be accommodated, set them apart. Those ones that cannot be accommodated are the ones you now take action against. Not just a blindfolded, because a master plan can grow.
All right. Well, this is another aspect to it. But thank you very much, Architect Akinola George, because indeed, any plan can grow, and it might well be that. I don't have the time, otherwise we would have pursued the, how good that is as well, because it just goes back to why do we have, as Nigerians, this problem? We've designed this thing for a triangle. People have gone and joined the points and added it and turned it into a square, so that we can have something on the left and something on the right. And as you've explained, because both politics and law are for the benefit of
man, yes,
of man at the end of the day. We'll see how all of this goes. But thank you very much for coming on and throwing this bit
Thanks for having me.
Indeed, our pleasure. Yeah. And also, thanks to Malam Ali M. Ali, who we thanked earlier. Architect Akinola George is a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Architects and immediate part president of the Building Collapse Prevention Guild. That's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.
Our boss was like, a decent fashion designer only gets home at midnight.
Midway.